Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have to say thank you to all of you for coming here and sharing your stories. I don't think anyone could hear them without really being horrified. And I just want to say how brave you all are to come here and tell your stories. I know it'll make a difference. And I can't help but feeling that this is an historic meeting, finally trying to deal with the issue of anti-Semitism in this country. Now, I want to say, Mr. Oberman, you talked about the blank page and moving forward and legislating, but I want to turn the clock back to October 7th and the interim period between then and now, because I think that the reality is that the actions of our government have not made things better. They've actually made things far worse. And I'm going to take you through a number of situations. So, for example, just after October 7th, the Prime Minister publicly scolded Israel and the IDF for bombing a hospital in Gaza without having all of the necessary information. And it came out after that it was actually misfired rockets from inside Gaza and that the IDF had nothing to do with it. Still, this is the Prime Minister of Canada. He directed his ambassador in the UN to vote for a blatantly anti-Israel ceasefire motion at the UN, siding with the anti-Israel UN mob. He rewarded Hamas by blocking arms sales to Israel after Hamas brutally murdered 1,200 civilians and took hostage over 200 more. Worse, he failed to remove the arms ban even after Iran launched a direct attack on Israel's territory with hundreds of missiles and drones. He rewarded Hamas by reinstating funding to UNRWA, even though UNRWA employees participated in the October 7th attacks. He failed to unequivocally condemn the frivolous genocide convention claim launched by South Africa and the IJC. And I think the worst thing of all of this is, because I was president in the House for it, is that he voted with his caucus, except present company accepted, for a motion in Parliament that actually punished our democratic ally Israel and rewarded the terrorists of Hamas. And worse than all of that, at the end of that vote, almost every Liberal, present company accepted, stood up and gave themselves a standing ovation with the NDP in the House of Commons because they were proud of the fact that they passed this motion. So I want to ask you, Mr. Oberman, would you agree that the actions, not just the inaction, but the actions of this Liberal government since October 7th has fanned the flames of anti-Semitism in Canada and exacerbated the problem on university campuses?
That is a great question, but you forgot one important thing, Mr. Morantz. When our Prime Minister invites into the House of Commons a place of democracy and justice, a former member of the Nazi Ukrainian party, you might want to not send that type of message to the people of Canada. I'm no politician, sir. I'm a simple lawyer trying to do a difficult job. I'm a collections lawyer by trade, but my community came to me on March the 4th and said, Neil, collect back our dignity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect back the dignity of our people. What I can tell you is people take a cue from their leaders, as they should. C'est très important de regarder qui est en It stokes the TikTok, it stokes the online hate. And you know what hate is? Hate is like a disease. And when you feed it with the wrong words and the wrong impressions, you create the atmosphere, and then you say, oh, we need to correct it. It's broken. It's broken because you broke it. So you now want to fix something that you broke? Great, but look at these poor students. Their entire university career is going to be marred by threats, by violence. What does that leave us in the future? It leaves us with a blank page. But, sir, I agree with you. Government must be more responsible because responsibility starts in your house. Clean up your house, and people will follow suit. Thank you.
Just want to, same question to Ms. Cook. Do you think that, given what I've outlined, that government has made the problem worse?
I think that the EDI system has made the problem worse. Like I stated, the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion meeting did not include Jewish people when they were discussing what to do about a Jewish person creating anti-Semitism on campus. I think it can start at the top, but it also starts in institutions and massively funding EDI programming that, quite literally, when I asked, who decides who's in these EDI meetings? Is it a percentage of population? Their response was, well, it's the groups that deserve equity and deserve inclusion. Well, who decides that?
I agree 100%. Mr. Ashak, do you agree with my assessment?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. Ms. Pressman?
I would just like to say that the average Canadian who are on our campuses who are spewing hatred against Jews aren't necessarily supportive of the actions that the government have taken because they think they're not enough. The persons who are calling for an intifada until revolution still think our government is too pro-Israel. So I think that while we're talking about particular policy, I also want to keep in mind that that's really the reality on our campuses, and I think that we need to work towards talking about how we can actually deal with anti-Semitism on our campus. Regarding EDI, I think that what we should do is try to incorporate more Jews into EDI, because I think we deserve to be in those spaces rather than get rid of them as a whole.
If I have 1 second left, Ms. Nashon, do you agree?
Mr. Moran's time's up.